Hi, this is Angelique Villemay, Senior Lecturer at Aix-Marseille University, and welcome to the second session of the module on leadership and social skills for impact entrepreneurs. I will quickly go over the general objectives of the module since they were explained in detail during session 1. In this session, we will talk about conflict management and team cohesion. An organization's functioning relies on collaboration between its members and leadership. However, this collaboration is often challenged by conflicting interests, individual pursuits, and relational dynamics, making conflict an inevitable part of organizational life. For Alexandre Bailly et al. In 2022, conflict is the nature of the relationship between several individuals or groups when they behave without any consideration for the interest or satisfaction of others, or even seek to harm them. Conflict can take various forms, as highlighted in the work of Afzal Rahim, who explore the origins of conflicts within organizations and offer a clear typology to better understand their mechanisms and manage them effectively. According to him, understanding conflicts is essential to make an accurate diagnosis and choose appropriate resolution methods. He identifies 5 types of conflicts. Substantive conflict, stemming from differences in opinions about professional matters. Affective conflict, arising from incompatible feelings between the parties involved. Process conflict, linked to disagreements over how to carry out tasks, deadlines, or the allocation of responsibilities. Transformed conflict, starting as a substantive conflict but shifting into an emotional domain, evolving into personal attacks. Disguised conflict, the opposite of the transformed conflict, where an emotional disagreement manifests as a professional or technical criticism. Substantive and process conflict, when well managed, can have positive effects such as improving solutions or fostering creativity. However, affective, transformed, and disguised conflicts tend to be more destructive, negatively impacting employee engagement, productivity, and satisfaction. Rahim also distinguishes several levels of conflicts. Intrapersonal, when an individual is in contradiction with their own values and skills. Interpersonal, occurring between individuals. Intragroup, taking place within a group, or intergroup, occurring between different groups. He emphasizes that managers must look beyond apparent conflicts to identify whether the causes stem from the organizational structure or internal processes. It's interesting to note that, according to Weingart et al. In 2023, different types of conflicts have distinct impacts. For instance, task conflicts are often beneficial when managed collaboratively, as it stimulates creativity and performance. However, relationship conflicts are more difficult to resolve, as it is rooted in personal values. In some cases, avoidance may be preferable to prevent negative escalation. Alexandre Bailly et al. In 2022 proposed a typology of conflicts based on several criteria: by nature, by intensity, or by purpose. So, you can have relational conflict that are linked to personal interactions, factual conflict focused on material issues or divergent interests. You can have hot or cold conflicts. You can also have realistic conflict aiming to resolve a very concrete, very pragmatic divergence. And you can have unrealistic conflicts that are fueled by emotional or symbolic tensions without apparent resolution. This typology reveals the complexity of conflicts, which are not limited to opposing interests, but also include emotional and symbolic dimensions. Let's now turn our attention to the dynamics behind conflict management and collaboration. Conflict and cooperation are 2 independent logics. The dynamics of cooperation and conflict are built simultaneously within organizations. And according to the same authors, cooperation and conflict are processes that protagonists build over time, without being able to necessarily predict their outcome. These two logics are driven by two main engines: interests and feelings, and sometimes supplemented by a logic of values. Let's talk about the logic of interests. It is rooted in rational approaches, notably game theory. It assumes that individuals pursue material or symbolic goals, often at the expense of others, unless cooperation provides a measurable benefit. This model highlights the ambiguity of cooperation. Individuals may collaborate out of intelligent self-interest, recognizing that limited collaborations serve their own goals. For example, in The Prisoner's Dilemma, although betrayal seems advantageous in the short term, cooperation can lead to mutual gains in repeated situations. Negotiation theory, unlike game theory, it focuses on actual behaviors and subjective dimensions. Two main negotiation strategies emerge: the distributive strategy, where gains for one party mean losses for the other; the integrative strategy, seeking mutually beneficial solutions which strengthen long-term relationships. And to succeed in integrative negotiation, it is necessary to understand well the actors and their organizational structure, establish a climate of trust, prioritize fair solutions, and maintain a focus on the object of the negotiation. In a complex context, open conflicts are rare. Most divergences take the form of latent conflicts or prolonged negotiations. Let's talk about the logic of feelings. Whether positive or negative, feelings strongly influence organizational interactions. This logic is rooted in the psychoanalytic theories. Freud and Klein suggest that conflict is an unconscious constant linked to fundamental antagonisms, life, death, love, hate, that structure the human being. Defense mechanisms such as projection or displacement externalize these conflicts, thus strengthening interpersonal tensions. Cooperation and social propensity are important too. Humans, as ultra-social animals, according to Tomasello, have developed essential cooperation mechanisms for social bonding, as shown by Moss' paradigm of gift, counter-gift. These altruistic interactions are reinforced by collective values and social norms. If the logic of emotions fuels tension, these uncontrolled emotions can quickly escalate, leading to a conflict escalation, as illustrated by Gresi in 2018. This model emphasizes psychological and social dimensions. It identifies four main stages: the initial phase, where disagreements are perceived as minor differences; the polarization, where rigidification of positions occurs with the creation of negative images; the open confrontation, with a direct and often violent exchange; and the escalation of violence when breakdown of relationships happen. Gresi emphasizes the central role of emotions and the importance of the social context in the intensification of conflicts. Unlike more deterministic models, he highlights that de-escalation remains possible through appropriate interventions, mediation, structured dialogue. Let's analyze this mini-case of a CSR conflict escalation. Imagine a textile manufacturing company that wishes to improve its CSR policy by reducing its ecological footprint. It decides to implement new, more environmentally friendly practices, which require significant investments and changes to the production processes. So here's the application of Grace's model. The first stage is the initial phase. And here we can talk about tension. So through disagreement and contained emotions. Employees, fearing for their jobs, express dissatisfaction with these changes. Management, on the other hand, emphasizes the long-term benefits for both the company and the environment. Contained emotions here are important because tensions are still latent, but employees begin to question the future of their employment. The second step, the second stage, if you prefer, is the rigidification of positions and the creation of negative images. Employees feel threatened and organize to defend their interests, and they form a union and organize protests. Management is seen as indifferent to employees' concerns, while employees are viewed as resisting necessary changes. The third step is the open confrontation. So in this stage, you will find accusations and personal attacks. So employees accuse management of not honoring its social commitments and endangering their jobs. And management, in turn, accuses employees of blocking the company's progress. Exchanges become increasingly virulent and relationships deteriorate. And the last step is the escalation of violence. So here you find verbal violence and physical violence. Insults and threats multiply. In extreme cases, acts of sabotage or strikes may be organized, leading to significant financial losses for the company. So how to apply Grace's model to this example? This model helps understand how a conflict initially related to CSR issues can quickly escalate and have negative consequences for all stakeholders. It emphasizes the importance of identifying the emotions at play, so fear of the future, anger at perceived injustice, frustration at being unheard. Communicating transparently, so management must clearly explain the reasons for the changes and listen to employees' concerns. Encouraging dialogue by creating spaces for dialogue to allow all parties to express themselves and find solutions together. And calling in a neutral third party. In case of deadlock, bringing in a mediator can help diffuse the conflict. So this example of the textile company shows how a CSR conflict can escalate quickly if the parties fail to find common ground. And Grace's model reminds us that conflict management is a key issue for the success of CSR initiatives. Building on Grace's models as applied to the textile case, it becomes essential to explore how different conflict management approaches can be employed to address the challenges arising from such dynamics. Thus, Rahim proposes 5 intervention styles suited for different contexts. The integrator style, based on collaboration and the inclusion of multiple stakeholders, ideal for solving complex problems but limited by time constraints or lack of participant motivation. The accommodator style, one party agrees to make concessions, often in the hope of gaining future benefits. This style fails if the party are firmly convinced of their positions or if they perceive the other party as dishonest. The dominating style requires quick decisions, often imposed by a manager. This style can resolve urgent problems but is ill-suited to complex issues that require a participatory approach. Avoidance style involves avoiding the conflict, sometimes appropriate when the issue is minor or when more time is needed. However, it becomes problematic if the conflict is important or requires immediate resolution. And the compromising style, useful when the parties have equal power or when their objectives are incompatible. Though sometimes necessary, this style can frustrate parties who feel there is inequality in the compromise or when faced with fundamental value issues. For Wynant and Hall, in 2023, research shows that conflicts can present opportunities when managed with collaborative strategies that promote the exchange of information and minimize emotional tension. Collaborative approaches include problem solving, compromise, and concession. Unlike individualistic methods, they are associated with better performance, satisfaction, and trust within teams. In organizations, the goal is not to eliminate conflicts, but to transform them into opportunities for cooperation. Resolution mechanisms include direct discussion, intervention by a third party, mediator, arbitrator, conciliator, or building compromises through integrative negotiation. As Alexandre Bailly et al. In 2022 point out, a harmonious relationship is not characterized by the absence of conflict, but by the ability to alternate between conflict and cooperation. Rahim advocates for organizational norms that encourage the expression of disagreements related to performance while limiting personal attacks. A collaborative conflict culture fosters a psychologically safe environment where team's members can express divergent opinions without fear. Practices like active listening and interrogative approach to decision-making contribute to this openness, while maintaining respect and restraint to prevent conflict escalation. Indeed, to Wynant and al. In 2023, key behaviors for effective collaboration include expressing disagreements directly and with moderation, clear, low-intensity communication reduces misunderstandings and negative emotional reactions, exchanging relevant information, sharing factual data and priorities allows for the identification of integrative solutions, grouping issues and finding win-win compromises by combining topics. Members can reconcile divergent interests through mutually beneficial exchanges, and breaking conflict spirals by adopting collaborative responses or involving a third party. It can interrupt destructive cycles and refocus the team on tasks. In short, fostering a cooperative work environment and training members in collaborative practices enhances the team's ability to manage conflicts effectively, thus maximizing collective performance. Cooperation is essential for the smooth functioning of organizations and relies on complex dynamics influenced by organizational culture. The latter plays a key role in how cooperation and conflicts are shaped. Here are some ways to foster a cooperative climate. Set the example. Indeed, a consistent and fair manager inspires their subordinates. Provide meaning through transparency of information and consistency in decisions help unite teams. Recruit cooperative profiles by prioritizing individuals with a natural aptitude for cooperation during recruitments or promotions. And strengthen leadership and communication skills by providing mandatory training or coaching to improve manager skills. By applying these levers, the organization can create an ecosystem conducive to cooperation, thereby fostering sustainable collective performance. Conflict and cooperation, far from being opposites, are interdependent, and structure organizational dynamics. While they rely on interests and emotions, they are also shaped by collective values. Effective conflict management, combined with an understanding of emotional and rational processes, is a key lever to strengthen cooperation and ensure the sustainability of organizations. Furthermore, according to Rahim, managers must adopt a proactive and thoughtful approach to conflict. By understanding their origins, choosing appropriate intervention styles, and cultivating a collaborative organizational culture, companies can turn disagreements into opportunities for improvement and innovation. The bibliography. And I thank you very much for your attention.